Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Thomas from Broad Street Hockey, joined with Jacob, and we are going over the top 25 under 25. And we've been doing this series and broadcasting and going over on the YouTube of doing groups of players. But now that we're getting nitty gritty into the top five, and obviously at ranked fifth is Cam York, the defenseman that's been here for a while, close to graduating the top under 25 under 25. But he's here. He's in the top five. How do you feel about his ranking overall, kind of, Jacob? Just initial impressions.
Well, it's interesting because this is normally more so an exercise for prospects and younger
Mhm.
guys, but Cam York feels like he's almost been here since like 2018. It hasn't
Yeah,
been that long, but it feels like he's one of the longest tenured Flyers at this point. Especially defensively, he's just kind of hung around here. And he is sort of what he is at this point. I think we've seen
we'll get to that. We'll get
maybe
to
not the best of Cam York, but
that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, like what you said, like 235 games, and he's like on like a list with like Jack Nesbitt and Porter Martone.
yeah, it's hard to
Um,
it's hard to kind of compare most of the other guys on this list to Cam York because Cam York, like you said, he's been in the NHL. He's played
yeah.
multiple NHL seasons and like the lion's share of them. So it's harder to maybe compare him to some of these other guys, but he deserves to be this high on the list because he has played in the NHL.
No, literally, like that's the reasoning that kind of went into my mind. And we'll kind of kick off and go through the questions that we typically ask, and especially in our comment in our article. And the Cam York article is on the website right now, so broadstreethockey.com. You can read along with the author's thoughts and our own thoughts and everything like that. But we'll go through kind of the basics of everything. So Cam York's NHL season this past year, 24 years old, like we said, 66 games, 4 goals, 13 assists for 17 points. More just box score stats, -8, 26 pims, all that good stuff that you want to see. But a lower average time on ice to 20 minutes and 47 seconds, down from 22:37 last season when he played all 82 games. Initial impressions, just kind of seeing that, like how do you grade his last year, really?
It's hard with Cam York because I feel like he's one of those guys that would be lifted up if the team was better. I feel like if the
Mhm.
goaltender was better, if team defense in general was able to hold up throughout an entire season, whereas especially with Torts, it was a lot of spurts. We saw a lot of really good 20 game stretches that never extended past March. And York is part of that. But at the same time, I think it's pretty clear that he is at minimum a top five defenseman in any team in the NHL, which isn't necessarily something to turn up your nose at, right? Like he'd play anywhere that he's contracted to in the NHL if it wasn't in Philadelphia. And on the Flyers, he's one of their best defensemen. He's one of their most capable defensemen with the puck, I would say, as well. Especially now when you have the Rasmus Ristolainen and Nick Sealers of the world, not necessarily guys who are going to shuffle it around the way that York can, but there was always something, that a large part of the fan base, especially, thought was missing from York after his selection in the first round, and it hasn't necessarily come to fruition as of yet.
Yeah, like you look at the point total is 17 in 66 games, and that's not what you even want to see as a defenseman. He got outscored by Rasmus Ristolainen at even strength. That's not great.
No,
Um,
and Risto was hurt.
and Rissa was hurt for a lot. I think I have the full. Oh God, I don't have it up right now, but here, let me see. Yeah, Risto 19 points. All of Cam York's 17 points were all even strength. But yeah, like Nick Steeler has 20 points, Drysdale earned 20 points at 5-on-5, and Sandheim earns 30 points. So when your partner at 5-on-5 is earning almost double the points that you have, it could be a systems thing, just like I'm sure that's a lot of secondary assists. Um, 13 for Sandheim actually. But yeah, it's you're not getting those looks. Especially compared to the previous year, the 23-24 season. He has 10 goals, 20 assists, 30 points in 82 games, playing much more of a role. I think if you're looking at this at his outlook after that season, and we did obviously last summer in the top 25 under 25, we were probably a lot more positive. Be like, this is a step forward. And now that he's kind of settled into 17.66 games, that's not a great outlook. So when we're talking about stock up or down, I would say probably slightly down, honestly. Like he's ranked this high, I think, just because, like you said, like because he's an established NHLer, and we're talking about compared to 18-year-olds that were just drafted. But would you agree with just a slightly stock down, like in your general assumption?
I think the entire Tortorella era was a
Yeah.
stock down for
Yeah.
York in a certain way, right? Like it just wasn't something that he was ever going to thrive in. I think we can look back at it now, and it makes a lot more sense that those two personalities, those two types of players, um, that type of player and the coach rather, didn't really get along. I don't necessarily think it's a stock down for York, more than just a slight amount, because what is he really like?
Mhm.
66 points and 66 games, 17 points, like you said. How far off is that really from 30 and 82, and how far off is that from 20 and 54, right? That he had in 2022-23.
Mhm.
It's not like he's shown some extra gear or some elite trait that would set him apart from the other defensemen that the Flyers have had. And like we said, in spurts, there might be even some times where Nick Seeler, maybe not last year, but the year before, definitely was a better defenseman than Cam York. When Rasmus Ristolainen really started to turn it around before his injury, there were some games where he looked like a more impactful defenseman than Cam York. It may just be a result of him kind of plateauing in his development. Like he's kind of just stayed where he was in the last couple of seasons, and not really shown another physical element, or the ability. Again, he's never really had the ability to play on the power play either, which is something that I think we can talk about
Since
later.
juniors, yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about later, but it's just something that never has come to fruition, and you would think that would be something that would develop over time, but it just hasn't, for
Yeah.
him, and it is underwhelming.
Yeah, like there is one thing that I actually just like clicked around and found interesting. So that 30-point season that we're like, oh, like that's a pretty good output of like 82 games. Like you could stretch it into 35 or so, whatever. Um, Actually last season he had more primary assists than that 30-point year. He had 6 primary assists compared to just 5. So 15 of his 20 assists in that 30-point year were a secondary assist compared to 7 of his 13 this year. So like it's not, I would say it's mostly a systems thing, and it's just generally scoring. Like you get a secondary assist like for nothing. Like you just like you're not purposely getting a secondary assist. So it's generally the Flyers just not being able to score. He played more minutes then, probably played with better players. You just generate secondary assists. You just generate points that way. I'm sure he had to do a lot of heavy lifting and play with like just a little bit down the lineup, obviously with fewer minutes. But that's what we'll touch on last year. And what should we be expecting from York this season? Like, is there a step forward?
I It's hard to envision that now, because it just seems like Cam York is who he is,
Mhm.
despite him not being old, despite him still being on the list. He's also not a guy who seems like he has anywhere else to go with his game. The reason why Tortorella disliked him so much, I think, partially is, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a smaller, more undersized scoring defenseman who can play with the puck, who can play the power play, at least power play two? Um, or do you want to like kind of bulk up and become more of a play stopper? That's the problem with Cam York. He's never going to be like even a Travis Sanheim level offensive player, who isn't the best offensive defenseman in the NHL by a long shot, but he's not even that level of an offensive talent. And it's not like he's Gustav Forsling on the other end either,
Mhm.
right? He's not a
Or Devin
play.
Taves even, like, he's not
No, he's not a
complimentary,
shutdown
like, it's
guy.
not, yeah.
He really only plays even strength minutes as like a second pairing guy, and then maybe some penalty kill. But again, I don't think he's the first guy the Flyers throw over the boards on the PK either. So it's hard to envision like how he takes another step forward. And I don't like to be negative about guys on the roster who are trying to like, there's always a chance. I don't think Cam York's a bad player. That's also why like he's gotten a lot of flack over the whole Caulfield thing, right, through his entire NHL career. And I don't even think that necessarily is that big of a deal. Like Cam York at that slot is fine. It's an okay selection, but it's just the guy that comes after him that it takes all the headlines, and he's just not really kicked in the second gear, and he's never shown. Some guys give you that glimpse that you can dream on, right? And even like someone like Yegor Zamula for like a game and a half, you're like, whoa, is this guy actually an NHL defenseman? Cam York's never really given you a glimpse of him, potentially being a top pair guy. It doesn't seem like it's something that'll happen. So he will probably take a bit of a bounce back now that Tortorella's gone. Now that he doesn't have to deal with that and the clashes of personalities that we all, I think, know at this point we're really evident, we're real. But at the same time, I don't really see how he takes a massive leap, because I don't think he'll get more responsibility necessarily under Tocchet, and I don't think he'll change his game, as negative as it sounds. I don't think he'll change his game enough to actually have any tangible benefit this upcoming season beyond 3 guy.
Yeah, like I think this ties into the next kind of like talking point of like what's his role in the rebuild, and like what is he gonna do on the next good Flyers team. I think a team could always use a player like Cam York. It just depends on how much you actually use that player. Right now, the Flyers are dependent on him to be a top 4, play all situations, obviously not power play, but play as much as possible, play in against tough competition, everything like that. I think the Flyers are just a little miscasting him almost. Like they want him to be something and want him to show something that he was drafted for, and that draft pedigree of like being a mid first round pick, um, and like a national development program, like product and all this stuff.
World Junior captain, he had 6 points in
Yeah,
7 games.
no, exactly. Like that kind of reputation almost hindered him from becoming just a solid NHL player and people being okay with it. And I think he has like a very welcome spot, but it's a spot that I think is one of the first to go if you're a team that's good in the regular season but keeps on struggling. Like if you're suddenly finding yourself like, oh, we're losing this hole. We don't have a lot of puck movers on the blue line. Sanheim found a new partner in Oliver Bonk or whatever, or like X player or whatever. So York, what are you doing? Like, are you playing with Drysdale the full time? So what is your like? Are you trying to be the Devin Taves light? Are you trying to be like no name Devin Taves or something like that? Like, it's. I think he needs to find almost like a secure, like almost like a archetype, like fit something, fit
Yeah,
like we were just talking about earlier, just like do something that makes you you, other than just being like, I'm here. My on ice like metrics are like fine. I like the Flyers aren't better, but they're not worse with me on the ice. Um, just do something where it's like that's you. Because honestly, when he's playing against Sanheim, Sanheim is the total driver, and it took Sanheim a while to become Travis Sanheim and be like a Team Canada, Four Nations potential Olympic defenseman. I think York is not even on that path, but just like can be. I think we can be patient with him, basically, is what I'm saying. Like, just like he's useful. So, like, just let him just like chill out and he'll find himself. And he might have like an excellent season, dependent on what player he like gloms onto. Maybe it's Trevor Zegras being like best friends and he scores 30 points off Trevor Zegras goals alone. But yeah, I think it's a really weird mix of like feelings with York.
No, yeah, going back to like just the overarching thing of like what does he fit the rebuild, or like how does he fit the rebuild timeline? I just, in his current form, I just don't see him being a guy that's even worth talking about. And it's kind of harsh to say, but I think there are a lot of Cam York capable players out there. And when you get to the playoffs, if you want to think ahead to when the Flyers are actually a good team, hopefully, I don't think the Panthers have a Cam York. I don't think a lot of these guys, a lot of these teams have a guy who doesn't necessarily play a role for them at that level. And if you're going to have Jamie Drysdale, if you're going to have maybe Emil Andre show up, do you want some trees around them, some big guys, some more physically inclined guys on your back end for when the going gets tough, and just people who seem more involved? That's probably what has hindered York the most, is just inability to look active on the ice at times. And it shows, I think, in his metrics where it's like, yeah, I'm out here. I'm not a bad hockey player. I was a first round pick. I have a lot of pedigree. I can play this game very well. But it's just not much more than a guy who he sort of plays like me in men's league. Like, I'm kind of over
I'm
it.
here for a
It's
skate.
like
I'm just
9:30. My hips hurt. I'm saucing it around. I'll throw blue line to blue line. If the puck comes to me at the point, I'll shoot it, but I'm not like looking for it. Hang out in the neutral zone. Like, it's not a conducive way to make an impactful defenseman on a great team. Like, me and Thomas like to sometimes say that he is Matt Carl.
but like no, but like I
He's
think
not
other
Matt Carl. Matt
he's not Matt
Carl was
Carl.
better than him.
No, yeah, like he does.
And
Matt Carl did stuff.
the
He
real
skated very
Matt
well.
Carl might be Oliver Bonk. And if you have
Yeah.
Oliver Bonk and Cam York, you either put them together and have the most boring D pairing of all time that it just prevents goals from going in, or you get rid of one and you keep Bonk, the younger one, who is more, like, he's more has more ties to this regime than someone like York does.
Yeah, the thing is, like, and what we'll kind of leave on this. Like, I'm interested in that. Like, the Flyers didn't really address the left side of their defense either. Like, they've been drafting these right-handed defensemen like crazy. These like Spencer Gill, Oliver Bonk, Carter Amico, like everything else, just like that's their target. And then suddenly it's like the left side is the future of the left side is York and Andre, like, and Hunter McDonald. You're like dependent on the guy that gets 100 pins and 5 points in the AHL. Congrats at 23 years old. Congrats, that's your future. Like, gee, like I don't know if they're like aiming to get like some crazy guy on the free agency market, but it's
I
like,
think you can probably say, I don't know if this fad has passed by now, but there was a time where right-handed defensemen were just at a premium in general. I
yeah,
think teams will just keep drafting them, and then if you have to use them as an asset in the future, maybe that makes more sense. But I feel like, yeah, if you want guys to actually push for spots, it's not going to be 800 tall project right hand defenseman. I mean, you would like somebody to naturally play on the left side, and push the guys that are there.
yeah. I think that covers it with York. Like a little bit of frustration there, a little bit of how his season went, where his season's going, what we maybe should expect from him. But I think overall, the ranking after it'd be like that guy's your like fifth best like under 25 guy. But I think it's just because of his experience, honestly.
Do
And
you
we
have
can
who he's between in front of you?
not in front of me. We'll finish on this, but like Cam York didn't grade lower than 8, which was Joe and myself ranked him 8th, and then but not higher than 4, which was Kurt, Maddie, and Brad. So like that's the range, and but nothing crazy. Like you see prospects like or players rather that like that we've seen of like, oh, they're ranked top 10, and then some people have them like 22 or something like that, just because
Yeah.
they don't jive with them or their thought process is different. York is so like just there that he's just like in this range, and the spectrum of like votes is so small.
Yeah, and the thing with York, I think, as well, like when you're voting on him, like sometimes people in the past have like given preference to NHL players, but even when you do that for York, the people who I know do that when we vote for this, you can't put him any higher than fourth. Like he's not more impactful than the other guys that are there. And
To come later.
to come later, yeah, the guys that will go unnamed for this portion of the exercise.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just a guy that's there, and I think it's a really one of those make or break seasons where you could wake up in next July, we're talking about Cam York being somewhere else, and it's a change of scenery sort of thing. Just because I think there are teams who would envision there's more there because the Flyers themselves and a lot of the fan base have envisioned that there is more there.
That's some Buffalo Sabres disease of like being so shit that another team dreams on your decent young players.
Well,
being so much better.
that's the Rasmus Ristolainen story. He was the OG of that.
Yeah.
So it would only make sense if we just start farming bad,
we're
good defensemen. Like we're gonna wake up and like Nick Seeler is like the Eric Johnson of the Avalanche Cup days.
Yeah.
Just randomly. Risto leaves again and then goes to Dallas and they finally win. Like
you just need to get traded.
The cycle continues.
Better and better.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's it on Cam York. A good solid chunk of time. Like and subscribe, please. We're going to be doing 4 more of these, obviously, but go back and watch all the videos. I know Steve and Joe did a lot. And Cam and Joe did the last one of the group, but yeah, just keep on watching and stay tuned for Broad Street Hockey throughout this Flyer season. It's going to be a real fun one at the YouTube, broadstreethockey.com. Read and subscribe, $5 a month gets you all the content you need and ad free and everything like that. It's wonderful. Yeah, that's all to say. Really, broadstreethockey.com forever.
Yam Cork.
Yam
forever.
Cork, baby. Yam Cork.